We live in interesting times. Today's stories. Mothers march in Paris against police violence. Thousands fill Hong Kong streets in a mammoth rally. In Ukraine, 5,000 protesters warned Zelensky against capitulating. In Niger, Boko Haram ex-combatants complete de-radicalization program. Trump tells Jewish Americans he is Israel's best friend. Hundreds sleep out in New York to raise awareness of homelessness.
Enjoy the rest of your night. God bless. Thank you very much.
Plus, local arts and crafts showcase in Papua New Guinea's Market Week.
Like normally 2 days and 3 days.
This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C., bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Rose Papa Angeles. A group of mothers have led a march in Paris against police violence, a year after images of their children kneeling on the floor with their hands on their head went viral. A group of high school students were arrested and, quote, humiliated by police in Mont-la-Jolie, a suburb of Paris, last December.
Je l'ai toujours à travers la gorge en fait, cette vidéo, ce moment-là. Parce qu'on a été indignés, on n'a pas été respectés. On n'a pas été respectés et voilà. C'est toujours ce que je ressens un an après, c'est la même chose que le lendemain en fait. Et voilà. Moi en fait, si je continue à me battre aujourd'hui, c'est que je veux une police qui communique. Ça veut dire que là, clairement, il n'y a pas eu de communication, il n'y a rien eu. Si on a une police qui communique, qui vient voir les jeunes par exemple, qui dit oui les jeunes, diminue un peu ça, faites ça, là bah, forcément il y aura moins de grabuge qu'aujourd'hui.
Faut bouger, faut pas rester derrière la télé ou se dire c'est rien, ça arrive, non. Je trouve que c'est inadmissible et il faut qu'on nous...
Au moins ils disent comme quoi, voilà, on reconnaît en fait qu'est-ce qu'on a fait. Et la violence policière, elle était là. Elle était carrément psychologiquement autant que physiquement.
Non, si on en parle, et puis c'est un sentiment aussi d'injustice, quoi. On veut que ce soit reconnu, on veut que nos enfants soient reconnus comme étant ce jour-là victimes de violences policières et qu'on rétablisse la vérité sur ce qui s'est passé ce jour-là.
Democracy protesters took part in the largest mass rally through Hong Kong streets in months on Sunday in a forceful display of support for the movement, with a leading activist warning the city's pro-Beijing leaders they had a last chance to end the political crisis. Organizers estimated some 800,000 people sneaked for hours through the financial hub's main island as the protest marks 6 months, a vivid illustration of the hostility that still seethes towards the government after half a year of unrest. The city's police force, which historically gives lower crowd turnout figures, told local media 183,000 people attended at the peak, still one of their highest estimates in months. The rally received rare police permission and came 2 weeks after pro-establishment parties got a drubbing in local elections, shattering government claims that a, quote, silent majority opposed the protest. As night fell, the crowd switched on their mobile phone torches, creating a glittering carpet of lights that stretched far into the distance, their chants bouncing off the towering skyscrapers above. Many of the black-clad attendees voiced anger and frustration that Chief Executive Carrie Lam in Beijing have ruled out any further concessions despite the landslide election defeat. Cantonese pop star Dennis Ho, whose music is blacklisted on the Chinese mainland, tweeted a video of the huge crowds with the caption, quote, "Here's your majority, Carrie Lam." Semi-autonomous Hong Kong has been battered by increasingly violent demonstrations in the starkest challenge the city has presented to Beijing since its 1997 handover from Britain. Millions have marched in protest fueled by years of growing fears that authoritarian China is stamping out the city's liberties. The last fortnight has seen a marked drop in violence and vandalism after the landslide win by pro-democracy candidates. Police took the unusual step of allowing the Civil Human Rights Front, or CHRF, to hold Sunday's march, the first time the group has been granted permission since mid-August. But they warned they would have zero tolerance for violence by radicals. The movement's demand include an independent inquiry into the police handling of the protests and amnesty for those arrested and fully free elections. The protests were initially sparked by a now-abandoned attempt to allow extraditions to the mainland but have since morphed into a popular revolt against Beijing's rule. The CHRF, which advocates nonviolence, has been the main umbrella group behind record-breaking rallies earlier in the summer that saw huge crowds regularly march in searing heat. One march in June drew what organizers said was 1 million people. Another soon after drew double that. Authorities have repeatedly banned major rallies in recent months, citing the risk of violence from hardcore protesters. Large crowds have simply ignored the bans, sparking near-weekly tear gas and patrol bomb clashes that have upended Hong Kong's reputation for stability and helped tip the city into recession. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, thousands of protesters gather in central Kyiv a day before Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky meet for the first time in a bid to ease tensions and end a 5-year conflict in eastern Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron this week faces the first major test of his policy of directly engaging with Russia that has disturbed some European allies as he hosts a summit seeking progress in ending the Ukraine conflict. Joined by German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Macron brought together Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky for their first face-to-face meeting at an afternoon summit at the Elysee Palace in Paris Monday. The stakes are high. It was the first such summit in 3 years, and while diplomats caution against expecting a major breakthrough, a failure to agree concrete confidence, building steps would be seen as major blow to hopes for peace and also Macron's personal prestige. Macron, who is pressing ahead with the summit despite crippling public transport strikes at home over contested pension reforms, has invested hugely in efforts to end the conflict in the east of Ukraine that has claimed 13,000 lives since 2014. And he has also placed his bets on a risky strategy to deal directly with Putin, based on the assumption that one day Russia will understand it is in the national interest to see Europe as its long-term strategic partner. Michael Duclos, a former ambassador and senior fellow at the Institut Montaigne, a French think tank, said, quote, "It is an important test for Macron and for the Europeans." He added, quote, "He is already very isolated, and if he obtains nothing on Ukraine, he is going to be even more isolated." But he said the Kremlin was astute enough to understand that the summit had to be declared a success, and Putin was gladdened by Macron's overtures as he sees in that a chance to divide the Europeans. Some 110 former members of the Boko Haram jihadist group are completing a de-radicalization program and vocational training in southeastern Niger near Nigeria, paving the way for their social reintegration.
Sanadiyan Boko Haram ne da ina zaune tun a gidanmu da aka sace ni aka kai ni can ina nan da cikin su din haka tukunan ina da neman hanyar fita ina ta nema tukunan sai bayan shekarun da suka wuce wannan sai na samu hanyar da zan fita sai na fita da na fita kuma da na zo nan din ma kuma ina nan shekara uku.
À partir de cet instant, il n'y a plus de loi d'amnistie à entendre. En fait, c'est des personnes qui sont totalement libres, mais qui ont à un moment donné de leur vie dévié et qui ont compris que la voie qu'ils avaient empruntée n'était pas la bonne voie.
Ina so da zauna kan sana'a wannan kuma ina neman yafiya ga yan uwana da waɗanda abun ya rusa da su da kuma har ma da wanda abun ya ji ya bata mishi rai duka muna nan yafiya da gare su gaba kidaya ma ba ma Niger kare ba har ma Afrika gaba kidaya muna neman yafiya gare su.
Puis nous avons lancé un appel aux communautés où ils vont être réinsérés pour qu'elles les acceptent. Nous avons également profité pour lancer un appel à tous ceux qui sont encore dans l'aventure pour qu'ils se rallient eux aussi et qu'ils deviennent des personnes normales, comme ça va désormais être le cas de ceux qui viennent de bénéficier de cette formation.
Up next, President Trump says Kim has, quote, far too much to lose if he takes hostile actions. Trump tells Jewish Americans he is Israel's best friend. Hundreds sleep out in New York to raise awareness on homelessness. Plus, for arts and culture, local arts and crafts showcase in Papua New Guinea's Market Week. Eagle News will be right back. Stay with us.
In Good Shape, your weekly health show on DW that covers many aspects of healthcare. We look at what's new in medical treatment, nutrition, fitness, and beauty. We discuss these topics in depth with specialists.
Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from Washington, D.C. I am Rose Papa Angeles. President Donald Trump warned Sunday that North Korea's Kim Jong-un had everything to lose through hostility towards the United States after Pyongyang said it had carried out a major new weapons test. In response to an unspecified test at the Sohae Space Launch Center, Trump tweeted, quote, Kim Jong-un is too smart and has far too much to lose. Everything actually, if he acts in a hostile way. The announcement of Saturday's test came just hours after Trump said he would be, quote, surprised by any hostile action from the North, emphasizing his very good relationship with Kim. Trump and Kim engaged in months of mutual insults and threats of devastation in 2017, sending tensions soaring before a diplomatic reapproachment the following year. The pair have met 3 times since June 2018, but with little progress towards denuclearization. Pyongyang has set Washington a December 31st deadline to make new concession to kickstart stalled talks. Trump tweeted, quote, North Korea under the leadership of Kim Jong-un has tremendous economic potential, but it must denuclearize as promised. NATO, China, Russia, Japan, and the entire world is unified on this issue. Writing that Kim had signed a strong denuclearization agreement at their June 2018 summit in Singapore, Trump warned, quote, he does not want to void his special relationship with the President of the United States or interfere with the U.S. presidential election in November. A spokesman for North Korea's Academy of the National Defense Science said Saturday's very important test would have an important effect on changing the strategic position of North Korea, in a statement carried by the official KCNA news agency. The statement did not provide further details on the test. A senior U.S. administration official earlier said Washington had seen reports of a test and was, quote, coordinating closely with allies and partners. Trump indicated that military action was still possible when he was asked about Pyongyang's on the sidelines of a NATO summit in Britain this week. North Korea fired back that if the United States used military force, it would take, quote, prompt corresponding actions at any level. UN diplomats fear that North Korea will resume long-range nuclear or ballistic tests if no progress is made soon in talks with the United States. Sohae on North Korea's northwest coast is ostensibly a facility designed for putting satellites into orbit. But Pyongyang has carried out several rocket launches there that were condemned by the U.S. and others as disguised long-range ballistic missile tests. Following the Singapore summit, Trump said Kim had agreed to destroy a major missile engine testing site without naming the facility. Kim then agreed to shutter the Sohae site during a summit last year with South Korean President Moon Jae-in in Pyongyang as part of trust-building measures. President Donald Trump aimed to make inroads Saturday in the politically important Jewish American vote with a Florida speech where he declared himself the best friend Israel has ever had. At a conference in Hollywood, Florida, Trump said Jewish Americans had been wrong to vote for Democrats under his predecessor, Barack Obama.
The Jewish state has never had a better friend in the White House than your president, Donald J. Trump. But he loves Israel and he's fighting hard for Israel. He wants to make peace with your neighbors. And a lot of people say that can't be done. A lot of people say it can't be done. It's the hardest of all deals. I love deals, and I used to hear the toughest of all deals is peace with Israel and the Palestinians. They say that's the toughest of all deals, but if Jared Kushner can't do it, it can't be done. Now it's truly my honor to be here this evening to celebrate our progress, to deepen the incredible partnership between the United States and Israel, and it suffered very gravely in the last administration. I don't know if you know that. So many of you voted for people in the last administration. Someday you'll have to explain that to me, because I don't think they like Israel too much. I'm sorry.
Trump was speaking at a meeting of the Israeli-American Council, a nonprofit whose founders include billionaire Jewish American Sheldon Adelson and his wife Miriam, both of them high-profile Trump supporters. Jews make up only a small portion of the electorate, but in Florida, they represent a crucial piece of the swing state electoral puzzle. Historically, American Jews have voted heavily Democratic. Trump, who is hoping to repeat his 2016 strategy next year by winning re-election through strategic accumulation of electoral college votes in key states, has worked especially hard to woo Jewish Americans. Since taking office, he has upended decades of American policy in the Middle East by ascending to a string of Israeli demands and all but slamming the door on Palestinians. This includes recognizing the disputed city of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and also recognizing Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, a territory taken from Syria in 1967. In November, the Trump administration again broke with decades of international consensus when it said that it would no longer consider Israeli settlements on occupied Palestinian lands in the West Bank illegal. The policies are also highly popular with right-wing evangelical Christian Republicans, a vital part of Trump's support base. Despite the aggressive support for Israel, coupled with intense pressure on the Palestinians, the Trump administration says it has a peace plan ready to unveil once an ongoing Israeli leadership impasse is resolved. Trump has put his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who is Jewish American but had no previous experience in government before joining this administration, in charge of the peace plan. Trump told the crowd on Saturday, quote, "A lot of people say that can't be done. They say that the toughest of all deals, but if Jared Kushner can't do it, it can't be done." Taking direct aim at one of his potential Democratic opponents for the 2020 election, Trump told the audience the left-wing Senator Elizabeth Warren should not get their vote because she would impose heavy taxes. He said in a reference to Warren, quote, "Let's take 100% of your wealth away." One problem, Trump told the gathering, is that some American Jews, while being, quote, "great people, they don't love Israel enough." Meanwhile, over 1,000 people braved the cold and spent the night sleeping in New York Times Square to raise awareness on homelessness as part of a worldwide event, with Madrid and London among other participating cities.
People that are in that situation often say they feel completely invisible, so tonight we want to shine the spotlight on it, show them they're not invisible, show them that we care, and really demand that our political leaders address this problem and treat it as a #1 priority.
Homelessness goes past race, gender, creed, religion. This is like it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic, and we have to really do something about it.
Most of the time I feel helpless when I see homeless people on the street, and you can give them money, you can give them food, but you kind of feel like it's not enough, and this was just an opportunity to get other people involved as well who may feel like I am and help me raise money for the cause and do something more than maybe just give somebody $1 on the subway, so it might help.
Will Smith told charity campaigners braving a fierce New York winter night to sleep rough he still feels emotional about homelessness years after playing a destitute man in one of his most acclaimed film roles. Hundreds of people had gathered in Times Square on Saturday, rugged up and ready to bunk down in freezing temperatures in a campaign to raise funds for what organizers said was record homelessness globally. Smith told the crowd that his Oscar-nominated role in The Pursuit of Happiness, a 2007 biopic of a salesman forced to live on the street of San Francisco with his young son, was a, quote, life-changing experience that had allowed him to understand the misery of poverty. Smith said, quote, it makes me emotional thinking about it right now. To not have a place to go and to be able to lay your head down with your children at night is a horrendous tragedy. Smith also charmed crowds with A Bedtime Story, a rap rendition of the theme tune to his 1990s hit sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The charity said in a Saturday statement people in over 50 cities around the world slept on the streets to support the world's Big Sleep Out campaign, adding that funds from the New York event would be donated to the UN Children's Fund. The statement said, quote, in New York City alone, more people are now homeless than at any time since the Great Depression. Over 62,000 people in New York, including 22,000 kids, will sleep in shelters tonight, and the number of homeless people and refugees in cities around the world continues to hit record highs with each passing year. And now for arts and culture. Locally made arts and crafts went on display and for sale at this year's Market Week in Papua New Guinea. Eagle News correspondent Echo Hortaleza Quinola takes us to this truly colorful event. Echo?
Hello fellow men, please join me in rummaging the downtown area of Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea to see how the people of this country are artistically inclined. This shirt is one of their artworks.
My father is an artist, so I'm helping to paint. I used to help him to do his artwork. Then I learned from my dad. The craft market is very good, and then we used to sell our product, and a lot of customers come and buy our paintings, and we used to live on this artwork. I was 14 years old. I paint, so now I paint almost 16 years I paint, yeah. In one painting I paint almost 2 weeks, but now because I used to paint every day in my life, so that's why I paint fast. Like to complete one painting I used to paint like normally 2 days and 3 days.
Please join me as I show you around. I'm sure you will enjoy. Craft Market. The people of Papua New Guinea are art enthusiasts. They are known for their distinctive art and handicrafts. They are so adept in carvings, baskets, or the so-called bilum, stone tools, adornments, shells, and weavings. Some of these materials are worn during their performance of their traditional dance, where they show a carnival atmosphere. These market vendors are happy with the practice of moving to different venues every Saturday. The vendors sell their products mostly to tourists and businesses. According to them, this is their special and easier way to promote PNG handmade products, and they are also proud that these artifacts has a very unique design of home establishments and office display.
Morning.
Your name, please?
Mikey Umba.
Mikey Umba.
Mikey Umba.
You're from Port Moresby?
I am from Simbu. Came here back in 2019. 1995.
So these are your artwork?
Yeah, these are my artwork.
I think it has a meaning.
Oh yeah, all the paintings has the meaning behind them. Well, once the painting, then we can tell the meaning of the story of the painting itself. Oh, I've been painting for about more than 10 years now, 10 to 15 years. I started back painting in 1997, so to date.
I heard there's very beautiful things from all over Papua New Guinea here, made by people and reflecting different cultures. It's lovely. I've just arrived and there's so much to see. Oh, there's, some really unique work from different parts. The masks from the Sepik River, very traditional, I think, and then carvings, and then beautiful artists, paintings, some modern, some traditional, and then special bags called bilums. Yeah, really amazing amount of work that goes into them. Very traditional style of carrying things. Yeah, I recommend it very much. You must come and visit.
This is our culture. We have been painting our face, traditional painting. Our culture, our ancestors have been painting with clay and all this. But now we can use acrylic paint and oil base and all this. Modern now, sir.
Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, this is Echo Hortaleza Quinola and I am on with 25.
Thanks, Echo. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I am Rose Papa Angeles, and I am one with 25.
Soccer, the world's favorite sport.
Magandang umaga Pilipinas, ngayon po ay Miyerkules, Disyembre 11, 2019. Narito na po ang mga balitang pumapagaspas sa panig ng Pilipinas.